I'm a total poser. To maintain my melancholy girl persona, I put on a cold and gloomy face every single day. Little girl, are you okay? I'm fine. Until one day, I transmigrated into a horror game. When I faced the terrifying supernatural creatures and was so scared I wanted to scream at the top of my lungs, the system suddenly informed me that everything I did would be live-streamed 24/7. So, I held it in, under a sky raining blood. Other players cowered in the safe zone, afraid to come out, but I held a transparent umbrella. Dressed in my JK school uniform, wearing white wired headphones as I strolled through the rain, the boss, who had just opened his bloody maw to devour me, instantly turned red in the face. He looked completely bashful. I smiled. If melancholy is a talent, then I must be gifted. One second, I was listening to sad music, imagining myself walking the streets of Tokyo. The next second, I was inside a horror game. An eerie electronic voice rang in my ear. Welcome, player, to the S-Class dungeon. Superior weirdos. Pass all the weirdo levels within the dungeon. To clear the game. Fashion is stable, but the current player's persona is... I give up. On a cold, damp street, a gray building stood before me. A gust of chilling wind swept past. Everyone instinctively held their shivering bodies. Only I remained expressionless, looking deeply melancholic because that is my persona. In reality, my heart was screaming like a frantic marmot. Mom, where on earth is this? I was so scared. A timid girl nearby was already crying on my behalf. A thud kicked a nearby street light. Damn it, what kind of hellhole is this? Suddenly, he froze, staring at me in a daze. Under the dim yellow light of the lamp, I stood there quietly, full of melancholy and serenity, a stark contrast to the panic around me. My mind was focused entirely on the street light. This is a divine prop for creating a melancholic vibe. So, I immediately moved under the light. While I was busy maintaining my character, a horrific scream suddenly erupted from the crowd. I looked up. In the boundless darkness, something strange seemed to be writhing, swallowing several players whole. Then came the bone-chilling sound of chewing. Everyone fled in terror. I took 2 steps back, but ultimately held my ground. I leaned directly against the lamppost, looking up at the sky at a 45-degree angle, showing off my perfect jawline. I certainly couldn't outrun the monsters. In that case, I had to maintain my melancholy even in the face of death. Even if I die, I must die with dignity. But strangely, the monster hidden in the dark didn't attack me. While I was wondering why, a girl's voice shouted, "Quick, go to the light." As they rushed toward me, I was almost knocked over. I nearly broke my character. Sure enough, once we reached the light, the monsters vanished. Just then, a man and a woman walked over with flashlights. They claimed to be veteran players. Yao Yao, brother who are they? I don't know. Haven't seen them before, maybe they're here to help. After brief introductions, the two began explaining the situation to the players. They told us where we were. The monster from just now was the first monster in this game, known as Mr. Shadow. To return to the real world, we must clear the game. This Mr. Shadow is quite afraid of light. Hearing this, everyone looked at me with strange eyes. Yao Yao's gaze towards me was intense. As a newcomer, not only can you stay this calm, but you found the way to survive in such a short time. Impressive. I felt a bit awkward. I couldn't exactly say I actually knew nothing, and was just acting melancholy. Admitting that would ruin my persona. So, I simply gave a faint nod. Soon, we entered the building to prepare for the night. Yao Yao said, "Don't put all your eggs in one basket." To avoid everyone being wiped out at once, each person would take one room, but monsters would appear in some rooms. Passing this level was entirely down to luck. Yao Yao and brother who both chose rooms on the 3rd floor. Seeing this, the others quickly chose floors near them. To maintain my melancholic persona, I didn't scramble for a room. The only room left was room 404 on the 44th floor. The other players looked at me with pity. On the surface, I was calm and unbothered, but inside, I was on the verge of a breakdown. God damn it. Why do this to a melancholic, quiet, and introverted little girl? At that moment, comments scrolled across the screen. She's dead for sure. Monsters on even-numbered floors and rooms are incredibly powerful. The 44th floor and room 404? The death buffs are fully stacked. That's what she gets for posing like that. Seeing this made me want to cry even more. But I held it in. Because melancholy is my middle name. After entering room 404, I realized this dungeon actually had a Japanese setting. Even though it was a horror world, at least I finally made it to Tokyo. I kept comforting myself. When I got to the bedroom, I started rummaging through the closet. The audience was curious about what I was doing. Why is she going through the closet? I don't recall any clues or items in there. A moment later, I pulled out a full set of JK uniform. Feeling the soft fabric, my eyes welled up with tears of joy. Mom, I'm finally wearing an authentic JK uniform, and this one is a limited edition worth 5 figures. In the real world, my family preferred boys over girls, so I could only afford cheap knockoffs from budget sites for $9. I changed into the authentic JK uniform, feeling very satisfied as I looked in the mirror. As expected of a 5-figure limited edition, it looked absolutely stunning. The comments were shocked. Is she really worrying about her looks at a time like this? She's literally asking for death. After admiring myself enough in the mirror, I casually turned on the TV. I wanted to create the image of a home late at night, a melancholic scene of me sleeping alone on the sofa. The moment the TV came on, my whole body went stiff. It was Sadako. I nearly screamed. With just one glance, I recognized the famous Sadako. I almost let out a shriek. But I forced myself to stop when I saw the livestream comments. No, I must stay calm. I can't break my melancholy girl persona. Is this girl okay? She sees Sadako and she doesn't run? Sadako started crawling out. My hands were shaking, but I suppressed my fear and lay down on the sofa clutching a pillow. I closed my eyes, chanting in my head, "Evil spirits, go away. Evil spirits, go away." The next moment, an icy, clammy hand grabbed my ankle. I opened my eyes trembling. Froze for a second, then immediately sat up. I brushed aside Sadako's long black hair. A flash of stunned admiration crossed my eyes, the ultimate melancholy aesthetic. So beautiful, I gasped. Sadako was also stunned. Clutching my foot, she didn't know how to react. My eyes were full of appreciation. This pale skin. This slender face. These dark pupils and long hair. And the faint dark circles under her eyes. The vibe was absolutely perfect. The only flaw was that her bangs were too long. She was missing that messy beauty of strands floating in the wind. I couldn't help myself. I grabbed a pair of scissors nearby, took hold of Sadako's hair, and whispered coaxingly, "Baby, you're so pretty, but you're just missing some atmospheric bangs." My movements with the scissors were expert. In 3 seconds, I gave her incredibly atmospheric bangs. I nodded with satisfaction, unable to resist giving myself a round of applause. The audience was floored by this move. I'm speechless. Completely stunned. I'm actually watching a player give Sadako a haircut? But honestly, those bangs were cut really well. Better than most high-end stylists. That'll be $98, please. Sadako saw her new reflection in my pupils. She really did look much better. She bashfully tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, and then gave me a deep bow. Truly touched. I smiled. No Japanese woman can refuse. Perfectly atmospheric straight bangs. Touching her bangs, Sadako crawled back into the TV with satisfaction. I collapsed onto the sofa in exhaustion, finally sent her off. Dawn broke. The cold electronic voice returned. 3 days remaining. Surviving players, 30. 3 levels left to clear the dungeon. Save time begins at dawn. There will be no danger during this period. Finally, I could breathe a sigh of relief. I went downstairs to meet with the other players. When they saw I had survived room 404 unscathed, they were all shocked. Brother who looked at me differently. I didn't expect a newcomer to actually make it out of 404 alive. Want to consider joining us? Everyone thought I would agree. After all, Yao Yao and Brother Who were quite famous in the horror game world. Allying with them was like finding a powerhouse to carry you. I really wanted to join, but my melancholy persona wouldn't allow it. Only by being a loner could I show off my unique melancholic charm. So, I had to refuse with tears in my heart. My eyes showed 30% indifference, 30% serenity, and 40% dark melancholy. No thanks. I'm used to being alone. Brother Who was surprised. He didn't expect me to decline. The comments section immediately began mocking me. She survived once by luck and now thinks she's a big deal. Just wait until she meets a real monster. I want to see her crying and begging for help then. I ignored the mockery. After all, those at the top must endure endless criticism. I was used to it. Suddenly, a muscular man in an apron, looking fierce, stepped in front of me. "Hey, how exactly did you clear that room?" As he approached, I couldn't help but frown. The smell almost made me gag. The man seemed to be a butcher. When choosing rooms yesterday, relying on the meat cleaver he brought with him into the game, he had stolen someone else's room. I frowned. What's in it for me if I tell you? The comments began accusing me. This girl is definitely a gold digger in real life, always talking about personal gain. Exactly. The first thing she did here was change into a skirt. The butcher looked me up and down with a greasy, disgusting gaze. If you tell me, I'll not only protect you, but I'll also make sure you, every night, I interrupted with a sneer. Did you accidentally put a pig's brain on your shoulders while butchering? I really wanted to roll my eyes, but for the sake of my persona, I just gave him a cold look. The butcher's face instantly turned red with rage. He started cursing and tried to raise his hand. I bluffed hard. Believe it or not, I can make sure you don't survive the night. The butcher's fist froze in midair, seemingly intimidated by the dark intensity in my eyes. What a joke. To create my melancholic persona, I had carefully selected oversized, pure black circle lenses online. At first glance, they look deep and melancholic, but if you stare too long, they give people a bone-chilling feeling. Sure enough, the butcher lowered his fist in annoyance. Nightfall soon arrived. I returned to room 404. According to the system, only 3 levels remained to clear the game. I didn't know what kind of horror I'd face tonight, but if I really couldn't escape, I just hoped I wouldn't die looking too ugly. Otherwise, it would be bad for my image. I waited for a long time, but nothing happened. I sat bored in the living room watching TV. Unfortunately, Miss Sadako didn't show up today. Otherwise, I would have liked to give her another makeover. Suddenly, there was a violent pounding on the door. I thought a monster had arrived, but then I heard the butcher's voice. I frowned and went to open the door. As soon as I did, I was shoved hard. The push nearly sent me sprawling to the floor. The butcher looked around, cursing under his breath. I knew something was wrong with you from the start. A newcomer, and a woman at that, finding solutions so quickly. And now you're surviving in the most dangerous room. Without a scratch. There must be a trick. Are you hiding some secret items? I was about to say something, when the butcher's face suddenly filled with terror. I was about to say something, but the butcher's expression turned to pure horror. His eyes bulged, and a horrific scream erupted from his throat. Jet black tentacles were wrapping all over his body. The black tentacles pulled and tore at him, literally ripping him to pieces. Seeing such a bloody scene, my stomach churned, and I almost couldn't stop myself from vomiting. But seeing the comments scrolling frantically, I held it in. So many people were watching. I took a deep breath. As I slowly turned my head, I came face to face with a head covered in bandages. My heart rate instantly spiked to its limit. But when I saw the monster's full appearance, a spark of excitement rose in my heart. This monster was actually Slender Man. He's my absolute favorite monster because every single element of his design perfectly hit my mysterious preference. The tall, slender body looks so fragile and elegant. It's almost pitifully lovely. The black suit and hat added a touch of restraint. And the white bandages on his face were the cherry on top. Not only did they add mystery, but not seeing a face made the vibe even more atmospheric. Isn't this the perfect damp and gloomy supernatural being? Most importantly, he has black tentacles. He's exactly my aesthetic type. The comments began showing me sympathy. Slender Man doesn't have hair to cut. She's definitely dead this time. Once a player's fear value reaches 80, Slender Man will make his move. Wait, don't you guys think it's weird? Her heart rate has jumped to 130. So logically, she should be terrified. Is the system bugged? While everyone was confused, I shouted with tears of joy, Daddy. The comments section exploded. Daddy? The comments went wild. Holy crap, has this girl gone insane? Guys, I must be dreaming. I just saw a player call a monster daddy. This girl probably says that out of habit, thinking the monster will fall for it too. Seeing the real Slender Man for the first time, I felt a bit shy. Your suit looks a bit worn out. Would you like me to tailor it for you? Slender Man remained silent, but since I had 0 fear value, he couldn't attack me. Seeing his silence, I quickly stripped off his suit jacket. Internally, I was screaming with joy. This is limited edition Slender Man merch. Anyway, Slender Man hugged his thin frame, looking small and pitiful in the corner. This was even better. I tried to clear my mind of inappropriate thoughts, quickly grabbed a needle and thread, and altered it into a suit perfectly fitted for Slender Man. Since my family was poor most of the time, I had to make my own clothes. This kind of sewing was a piece of cake for me. After Slender Man put the jacket back on, I looked him up and down. I was extremely satisfied. His original jacket was a bit bulky, but after my alterations, it instantly looked sharp and fitted. It accentuated his broad shoulders, narrow waist, perky glutes, and long legs. I think I love him even more now. Slender Man looked at his suit with satisfaction. He took off his hat and gave me a bow like a medieval nobleman. His movements were elegant and gentlemanly. Then, he placed the hat on my head and vanished into thin air. The system voice rang out. Congratulations to player Jiang Wu for obtaining the high-level item, Mr. Slender's hat. This item can be used to ward off enemies. It can remain invisible when not in use. 2 days remaining. Surviving players, 20. 2 levels left to clear the dungeon. As the remaining levels decreased, night seemed to fall faster and faster. The task this time was to go to a certain shop. As everyone prepared to set off, a rain of blood suddenly began to fall from the sky. Seeing this, all the players huddled inside the building, afraid to go out. Who knew what would happen out there? But my eyes lit up. A rainy day on the streets of Tokyo. And a damp, melancholic me. This was practically custom-made. For my melancholic persona, I couldn't hold back any longer. I quickly put on my white headphones, grabbed a transparent umbrella, and ran out into the bright red rain. Oh, wait, I shouldn't run. It would ruin my persona. I strolled down the silent street. When the other players saw that nothing happened to me, they began to follow suit. They found umbrellas and stepped into the bloody rain. As I passed an alleyway, a woman blocked a player's path. Hello, I don't have an umbrella. Can I share yours to get home? The player backed away in fear. The woman looked at him with a piercing gaze. She seemed completely unbothered. She tilted her head and gave a wide grin, then reached out and snapped the man's neck with brute force. The rain of blood seemed to get even heavier. The woman picked up the man's fallen umbrella. The rain is getting harder. But luckily, I have an umbrella now. I continued my stroll with my umbrella, listening to the lo-fi music in my headphones. During a song, a man blocked my way. On his pale, handsome face, a smile slowly formed. Hello, miss. It's raining and I don't have an umbrella. It's so cold. Can we share your umbrella on the way home? Can we share your umbrella on the way home? In that moment, my excitement reached its peak. My high school heartthrob god. That pale, stunning face, those broad shoulders, narrow waist, and long legs. He was my ultimate ideal. I had literally dreamed about walking in the rain under one umbrella with a handsome guy like him. The atmosphere was just too perfect. I readily agreed, but to maintain my melancholy girl persona, I kept my face indifferent. Only in my eyes was there a hint of deep, unshakable sorrow. I said, "Of course you can. It would be my honor." I walked down the street sharing the umbrella with the handsome boy. But the further we walked, the stranger it felt. My hand began to rise uncontrollably. I turned my head to look. The boy, who was originally only a head taller than me, was now growing taller and taller. I widened my eyes and stood on my tiptoes, holding the umbrella higher and higher. The man looked down. "Since you promised to hold the umbrella for me, then you better not let me get wet. Otherwise, I'll get very angry." His last words were chillingly ominous. I noticed the comment section had completely exploded. "This is terrifying. Jiangwu's luck is truly the worst. She actually ran into the hidden final boss of this dungeon." I swallowed hard. Suddenly, I remembered the reward I got from the last task. It was a tip note from the system. When you discover something unreasonable, please act as if nothing is happening. Whatever you do, don't let the entity know you've noticed. He suddenly leaned down, smiling casually. "Why is your hand raised so high all of a sudden?" My brain started frantically searching for a way to respond, but all I could think of were those edgy, melancholic quotes people post at 2:30 a.m. Looking at his body, which was still growing taller, I had a sudden flash of inspiration. I shouted, "Because being loved makes one grow flesh and blood." The man froze, as if he never expected me to say something like that. The comment section exploded again. "First time I've ever seen the big boss look this bewildered." "Never mind the boss, I'm bewildered too." I struck while the iron was hot. "There's something I've been wanting to tell you. And that is, I like you." The man's eyes widened instantly, and his body stopped growing at that very moment. He looked a bit overwhelmed. I looked up at his 3-meter height, tilted my head back, and shouted at him, "I hope you don't grow any taller. Because if you do, I won't be able to hold the umbrella for you anymore. I won't be able to walk beside you. That would make me so sad." The man's pupils trembled. I took a deep breath. The next second, I threw the umbrella aside, letting the rain of blood soak me through. Then, I lunged into his arms, tightly hugging his waist, and took the chance to feel his firm abs. I said in a voice full of emotion, "If you can't stop growing, then I am willing to stand in the rain with you." She's way too good at flirting. Even my heart is fluttering listening to this. Oh my god. I don't feel like I'm watching a horror stream. It feels like a pure romance anime. I kept my eyes closed because of fear. My body couldn't help but tremble slightly, but the faint scent of ocean and pine on the man made me subconsciously relax my body. It was my favorite scent. After a long time, the man's voice came, sounding a bit shy. "Staying in the rain makes you sick. Let's just use the umbrella. Also, can you let go? You're hugging me so hard I can't breathe. I let go of him and looked up. He had returned to his normal height. But he was still a head taller than my 170 centimeters height. Holding the umbrella was still a bit of a struggle for me. The man pursed his lips. He suddenly took my umbrella. Let me do it. I looked at him from the side. He had a pale, handsome face with thin, pale lips. But his earlobes were bright red. Seeing me looking at him, he lowered his head. The umbrella in his hand unconsciously tilted more toward me, shielding my entire body under it. While half of his body was soaked by the bloody rain, I smiled slightly, and took out a pair of wired headphones from my pocket. I put one earbud in his ear, and the other in mine. His already flushed earlobes instantly turned redder than the rain. Finally, we arrived at the only shop with lights still on in the darkness. As we parted, I handed the umbrella to him. Don't get wet, it would make me sad. Next time it rains, remember to come and pick me up. The comment section was about to explode. Did I tune into the wrong channel? Is this really a horror stream? This big boss is way too pure. While other players were fighting for their lives against monsters, this guy was just standing there acting all shy. Just as I was losing patience and about to take back the umbrella, he snatched it away. Fine, wait for me. I'll be waiting for the rain. At this point, other surviving players arrived one after another. Their faces were pale, and they looked extremely battered. The system voice rang out. How impressive. Only 10 out of 50 players remain. Since waiting was too boring, I began browsing the items in the shop. Thinking of the man from earlier, I curled my lips into a smile and picked up a bouquet of pure white roses, although I didn't know why the shop had these. All I knew was that these roses matched my melancholic persona perfectly. When dawn came, I picked up a box of sushi and a drink, and started eating in the convenience store. The other players seemed too traumatized to even think about eating. Soon, night fell once again, and the rain of blood started once more. In the previous levels, no one knew what monsters they would encounter, but this time a guy used an item. A mirror. That seemed to reveal what the next level would be. His face turned ghastly, for blood-red words appeared clearly on the mirror. Though short, they meant that every monster tonight would appear. The difficulty was clearly hell level. Many new players couldn't help but burst into tears. I remained cold on the outside, but I was also on the verge of breaking down inside. A gust of cold wind blew, and the glass door suddenly swung open. This sudden noise made everyone feel as if they were facing a great enemy. They stared fixedly outside the store. A pair of black leather shoes stained with blood stepped into the shop first. When I saw that face, my eyes lit up. Under a transparent umbrella was a pale, handsome face. He ignored the terrified gazes of the other players and walked straight up to me. His ears were red, and he stuttered slightly. I kept my promise. I've come to take you home. Hearing those words, my eyes shone even brighter. With his protection, I should be able to clear the game smoothly, right? Under everyone's terrified gaze, I left the shop with him. The man turned around, and his nose touched a cluster of soft petals, which emitted a faint fragrance. For me? He asked in disbelief. I nodded. Why? The man stuttered because I also want to ask you for a gift. What? The man lowered his head, not daring to meet my eyes. Your name. I want to know your name. The man seemed confused. Just that? I thought you were going to ask for an item. My expression was serious. In my heart, knowing you is more important than any item. The man's face instantly flushed red. I'm called Shenqinghe. What a nice name. I said I liked it, making his face even redder. Our hands hung down naturally under the umbrella, but the backs of our hands accidentally brushed against each other. Shenqing had jerked away, his neck turning a shade of crimson. He tried to hide his hand behind his back in a panic. I reached out and grabbed his hand directly. I haven't watched romance anime all these years for nothing. Shenqing had trembled slightly, but he didn't pull away. He just let me hold his hand. Halfway there, a woman suddenly blocked our path. Her mouth was torn open on both sides, forming a huge gash. In her hand was a massive pair of scissors. I recognized her instantly. It was the slit-mouthed woman. She grinned at me creepily. Is my mouth pretty? I knew the story of the slit-mouthed woman. If you say no, she gets angry and uses the scissors to cut the player's mouth open. But if you say yes, she says, since you think it's pretty, I'll make your mouth look like this too. Either choice leads to a dead end. Just as I was caught in this dilemma, Shinching had knocked away her scissors. Not as pretty as her. I was stunned. The slit-mouthed woman was stunned. The comment section was stunned. Even the system was stunned. The next second, the system sounded an alarm. Warning, NPCs are not allowed to interfere with the game. NPCs are not allowed to interfere with player progress. Shinching's expression grew cold. I held him back. It's okay, I can do it myself. I handed him the bouquet of white roses. I said, put these in some water, they should last for a long time. Please take care of them for me for now. Shinching was a bit flustered. Weren't they a gift for me? I smiled. This bouquet isn't properly decorated yet. I'll give it to you properly once I've fixed it up. The comments were scrolling wildly. Damn, this girl is too smooth. Ha ha ha. Smooth lines as soon as she speaks. Look how flustered the big boss is. Wait, it was only then I noticed the comments. I looked at the man before me who blushed just for my contact. This guy is the boss? He's way too innocent. But between flirting, I hadn't forgotten to maintain my melancholy persona and complete the task. I turned around and said sadly to the slit-mouthed woman, beauty comes in many forms. Why should you care about what others think? The slit-mouthed woman froze. She looked at me. In my eyes, there was sorrow, but no fear or disgust. Only an endless sadness, as if I truly felt heart-aching pain for her. In a daze, she touched the corner of her mouth. I knelt on the ground, dipped my finger into a bit of the bloody rain, and then applied it to the corners of my mouth, drawing a similar shape. Then I looked into her eyes and said seriously, no matter what you look like, I think you are beautiful. The slit-mouthed woman was silent for a long time, then handed her scissors to me. I took the rusty scissors. System notification. Congratulations to player for obtaining a high-level item. The slit-mouthed woman's scissors. This item has attack attributes. I was overjoyed. With Mr. Slenderman's hat, I now had both defense and attack, and by passing the slit-mouthed woman's trial, I also gained an extra system tip. But when I looked up again, both the woman and Shinching had disappeared. I followed the system's guidance and continued forward. As I walked, I arrived at an apartment building. It seemed this was the place the system mentioned, where the key to exit the dungeon was hidden. I stepped into the apartment. It looked like no one had lived here for a long time. The furniture was covered in a thin layer of dust. I started looking for clues, and found a photo album in the room. I opened it and froze instantly. The person in the photos was actually me. It was full of photos of me from various angles, looking like they were taken secretly. My skin crawled instantly. Oh God, there's a pervert. I barely suppressed the panic in my heart, and tucked the album away. After searching some more, I found a diary under a pillow. When I saw that the name on the cover was Shinching, I was stunned. This was actually Shinching's home. I opened the diary, and read it page by page. June 21st, rain. I used to hate rainy days. Because I'm a child with no home. And no mom or dad to come pick me up. Until today. When you came to me with that transparent umbrella. Carrying that scent of ocean and pine. Suddenly, I thought rain wasn't such bad weather. December 21st, snow. It's so cold. My clothes are torn again. You noticed my embarrassment. And used needle and thread to mend my clothes for me. In that moment, I didn't feel cold anymore. I even felt very warm. March 17th, sunny. Spring is here. Today is a beautiful, clear day. You took out some scissors. And trimmed the bangs that were covering my eyes. You told me my eyes were beautiful. Like the starry sky. And shouldn't be hidden away. That was the first time I was ever complimented. I felt incredibly happy then. Jiangwu, I like you. I am willing to die for you. June 21st. Today is the anniversary of our first meeting. The sultry rainy season is just like my feelings for you. I really want to confess to you. But unfortunately, I'm just a coward living in a dark corner. Oh. September 23rd. I used to always wonder. If parents don't love their child, why do they choose to bring them into the world? This is my third day locked in the basement. They took my little brother on a trip. I think I'm going to die here. September 30th, Jiangwu, this is my final word. Forgive the messy handwriting. I really have no strength left. Today is your birthday. I finally held on until your birthday. Jiangwu, happy birthday. If there is a next life, I want to hold the umbrella for you once. I crouched there in silence. The diary in my hand felt like a hot potato. I didn't know whether to throw it away or keep it. I, who grew up in a family that preferred sons. I, who was invisible in every situation, was actually being quietly watched all along. I took a deep breath and went to the apartment's basement. If I wasn't mistaken, the key to leave must be here. The lock on the basement was rusty. It looked like many years had passed. I got a hammer and smashed the lock open. I pushed the door open cautiously. In the dark, damp basement, a ray of sunlight filtered in. I saw a set of bones curled up on the floor. Beside the bones were 2 lines of bloodstains. Jiangwu, happy birthday. I like you. I stood there in silence for a long time. Only when my eyes felt sore did I step forward. I knelt down and bit my finger, writing a line next to it, thank you. I received your birthday wish. I like you too. Footsteps came from behind me. I turned back and saw Shinchinghe standing at the door. He was wearing a clean white shirt, holding the white roses I had given him. Shinchinghe looked pained. You know everything now? I nodded. I'm sorry. Does my feelings make you feel disgusted? I didn't say a word. I walked up, stood on my tiptoes, and kissed his lips. Shinchinghe froze in place, motionless. Seeing him act like a block of wood, I got a bit annoyed. Dummy, don't you know that you're supposed to lean down when kissing a girl? The next moment, Shinchinghe gripped my neck and kissed me back fiercely. At the same time, the system voice rang in my ear. This time, it was no longer cold. Congratulations to player Jiangwu for obtaining the key. While I was confused, Shinchinghe took a white rose from the vase and handed it to me. Remember the alley where we first met? That is the door for you to leave. Then what about you? I sniffled, suddenly wanting to cry. Shinchinghe smiled. Go. We will meet again. But not here. It's time for you to go back. Looking into his eyes, I finally remembered my experiences with him 10 years ago. My voice was sharp and strained. But I remember your name back then was Lu Shan. Shinchinghe smiled. Because you once told me you hoped my days would be clear and warm like a river. So I changed my name to Shinchinghe. Woo. I was born for the purpose of loving you. When I left, I ran into Yao Yao and Tiger on the street. They looked incredibly battered, but their eyes were full of murderous madness. At the same time, the system indicated the current player count, 3. Only 3. So that means the only ones alive now are me, Yao Yao, and Tiger. So that's where you were hiding, in the big boss's house, no less. Tiger sized me up. I heard you got 2 high-level items. Hand them over. I tilted my head and gave a soft smile. In your dreams. Their expressions shifted. Yao Yao pulled out a gun and pointed it at my forehead. Die. As soon as she finished speaking, Yao Yao pulled the trigger. But the image of my head exploding didn't happen. A black hat appeared on my head. I was completely unharmed. Yao Yao's face turned pale. That's impossible. How can you have such a high-level item? Tiger's expression darkened. He tried to move, but I quickly pulled out the slit-mouthed woman's scissors. I snipped at them a few times. As their heart-wrenching screams faded away, the 2 of them were eliminated by me. If I wasn't mistaken, the reason other players died so fast wasn't entirely because of the monsters but because of these 2. Because my performance was so outstanding, the system gave me a hint. As long as enough players died, one could get more tip notes. So those new players were used by Yao Yao and Tiger to find clues. After dealing with them, I went to the place where I first met Shinchinghe. I placed the white rose into a crack in the corner. The originally dark and narrow alley suddenly filled with warm white light. I walked into the alley. The system voice rang in my ear. Congratulations to player Jiangwu for clearing the urban legend dungeon. I opened my eyes. I was back in the real world. I followed my memories to Shinchinghe's home. Through the window, I saw Shinchinghe's family. The scene looked very warm. No, they weren't his family. They were the criminals who killed him. I need to call the police. Before long, sirens wailed. I went down to the basement with the police. Pushing the door open once more, I saw Shinchinghe's remains again. Don't be afraid. This time, let me take you home. The sirens pierced the quiet street. Shinchingha's villa was cordoned off by the police. I stood outside watching the police come and go. My cold fingertips were still clutching that diary stained with time. The bones I just saw in the basement, and the dried yet still piercing bloodstains, kept echoing in my mind. It felt as if a heavy weight was pressing on my chest, making it hard to breathe. "Miss Jung, please come back to the station to give a detailed statement." I nodded, though unshakable emotions were hidden deep in my eyes. I sat in the police car. The scenery outside blurred past, just like those memories forgotten in time. Fragments of that rainy season 10 years ago. On my way home from school, I found a boy curled up at the entrance of an alley. He was wearing ragged clothes and was soaked to the bone. His gaze was timid but clean. I handed him my umbrella. "Don't be afraid. It'll be okay once the rain stops." Because of my family's preference for boys over girls, I always felt like an outsider in my own home. Two lonely souls crossed paths just like that. I would secretly use the pocket money I saved to buy bread for him, or, when his younger brother bullied him, I'd take out a needle and thread to help him mend his torn clothes. When he lowered his head in insecurity, I would tell him, "Your eyes are beautiful, like the starry sky." I thought those were just insignificant acts of kindness from my youth, but I never expected they would become the light that supported him through the dark years. The lights in the police interrogation room were pale and cold. As I recalled everything, I slowly recounted the events from 10 years ago. I told them about the diary and the scene in the basement. My voice trembled slightly, and my fingertips were pressed white with force. The police quickly launched a deep investigation. Shinchingha's family initially tried to deny everything, claiming he had gone missing after running away from home. But with the forensic results of the bones, along with the diary and other evidence found in the basement, their lies fell apart. They paid the price for their indifference and cruelty. The moment I walked out of the court, the sunlight was blinding, but I suddenly felt a hollow sense of loss. I looked up at the sky, maintaining my usual melancholy persona, but only I knew that a corner of my heart was quietly collapsing. After returning to real life, I thought everything would return to normal. But I didn't expect the dungeon live stream to go viral in the supernatural world. Me trimming Sadako's bangs, tailoring a suit for Slender Man, and making Shinchingha's heart race with my flirting. All of them became legendary viral moments. From that day on, my life changed completely. When I left the house in the morning, there would always be various strange gifts at my doorstep. Black datura flowers glistening with dew, spider silk that glowed on its own, and even a matching wig sent by Sadako through a messenger. On my way to school, a talking crow would dive bomb me, reciting cryptic poetry, babbling about viral content, and asking how to gain that atmospheric vibe. Little hedgehogs would peek out from the bushes. These eerie creatures were quite respectful. They only appeared when no one was looking, but as it happened more often, I still found it a bit much to handle. Once during PE class, I hid in a corner of the playground to catch my breath. A palm-sized bat suddenly popped out. "What's the current status of your relationship with Shinchingha?" It was holding a mini camera, trying to record an exclusive interview for the weird TV station. I was so startled that I quickly stuffed it into my school uniform pocket and fled the scene, trying to keep my cool. What bothered me even more was that, ever since returning from the dungeon, I could always sense some eerie lingering aura. In the dead of night, faint whispers would come from outside the window. Could it be a side effect of the dungeon? I frowned, feeling a bit uneasy. I thought about those crazy bullet chats in the dungeon, and how Shinchingha blushed as he said, "I've come to take you home." I suddenly felt a bit lost. The girl who faced Sadako without flinching, who was ruthless with her words, and who dared to hold the big boss and shout, "I'm willing to stand in the rain with you." Was that really me? Just as I was lost in thought, a message from an unknown number popped up on my phone. "Want to see Shinchingha again? The secret script of the old school building dungeon is about to open. This is your only chance." My heart skipped a beat. "Who are you? Is Shinchingha still alive?" The other party didn't answer. They only sent a location. Looking at the abandoned third middle school shown in the location, my heart was full of hesitation. I knew how dangerous dungeons could be, but when I thought of Shinchingha, of the bones in the basement, and how he blushed while moving the umbrella toward me, I couldn't refuse. At midnight, I arrived at the abandoned third middle school right on time. The school gate was already rusty, looking exceptionally eerie under the moonlight. I took a deep breath and stepped inside. The campus was overgrown with weeds. The windows of the teaching building were dark and hollow, like twisted eyes. The air was thick with a damp, musty smell, along with a faint scent of blood. "Shinchingha, where are you?" The sound of my soft call echoed through the empty campus. There was no response, only the rustling of leaves in the wind, sounding like ghostly whispers. I came to the front of the teaching building and suddenly heard piano music coming from the second floor. The music was melodious, yet tinged with a trace of sadness. It was the same haunting song I heard in the dungeon. When I put the headphones on Shinchingha, my eyes lit up, and I quickly ran up to the second floor. The piano music came from a classroom. I pushed the door open and saw a familiar figure sitting at the piano. "Chingha!" I shouted excitedly. His face still had that pale, handsome look, but there was a hint of faint sorrow in his eyes. "You're really here?" I rushed over to him, my eyes reddening slightly. Didn't you say we would meet in the real world? Why are you here? Shenxinghe gave a bitter smile, and reached out his hand. I noticed that his palm was somewhat transparent. I'm not exactly alive in the true sense. After you cleared the last dungeon, I should have vanished. But because of that, I like you too, you left in the basement. A certain karmic bond was created, that allowed me to retain a trace of my remnant soul. This dungeon is a passage connecting the real world to the supernatural world. It's also the only place where I can temporarily manifest a form. I was stunned. I reached out and gently touched his palm. A cold sensation came through. Then what should we do now? Can you keep existing like this? Shenxinghe shook his head. The energy of this dungeon is very unstable. To truly let me rest in peace. Or to find a way to live again. We need to clear this dungeon. And find the truth hidden behind it. Just then, a cold electronic voice rang out. Welcome, players Jiangwu and Shenxinghe, to the A-rank dungeon. Secret script of the old school building. Mission, investigate the truth behind the abandoned school. Find the forbidden score and the soul vessel. Time limit, 3 days. Current players, 5. 3 people walked into the classroom one after another. They looked haggard. And their eyes were full of fear. It's Shenxinghe. Isn't he the dungeon boss? Who cares what he is? A woman is with the boss. They must be plotting something to harm us. Another girl with short hair looked at me warily. And frowned. Before I could explain, Shenxinghe stepped forward and shielded me behind him. I won't harm anyone, he said, his gaze cold. Our goal is to clear the dungeon. And find the truth. If you're willing to cooperate, I can provide help. If not, please stay out of the way. The 3 players were intimidated by Shenxinghe's aura. They didn't dare say anything more. They all knew. That is a former dungeon boss. Shenxinghe must know about the dungeon's rules and horrors. The chances of clearing the dungeon would be much higher by cooperating with him. So what should we do now? The reason the old school was abandoned must be supernatural. According to the dungeon hint, we need to find the forbidden score and the soul vessel. The piano music is the clue. Let's start investigating from the music room. The group nodded. And followed Shenxinghe. The lights in the hallway flickered. Cries and laughter could be heard from the classrooms. From time to time, making everyone's hair stand on end. The short-haired girl couldn't help but ask, her voice trembling. What happened here? Rumor has it that over 10 years ago, the school's music teacher, Su Wanqing, died in the music wing due to a heartbreak. Before she died, she was constantly playing a score she had composed. That's the forbidden score. Shenxinghe spoke slowly. Ever since she died, strange things kept happening in the school. Eventually, it had to be abandoned. I asked, what is the soul vessel? Su Wanqing's soul is trapped here. The soul vessel should be something that can carry her soul. It could be one of her belongings, or something related to her death. Once we find these 2 things, we can solve the mystery of the old school. Shenxinghe explained. We came to the office next to the music room. This is her former office. In a drawer, I found a yellowed lesson plan. On the last page, there was a strange symbol drawn. Next to it was written, 3rd floor rooftop, 1 a.m. What does this mean? A boy wearing glasses leaned over and asked curiously. It might be a clue left by Su Wanqing. Shenxinghe looked at the symbol. His gaze solemn. Let's go check the rooftop. The wait felt exceptionally long. Everyone hid in the music room, afraid to venture out. I leaned close to Shenxinghe, scented by the faint sea salt pine fragrance on him. And my anxiety gradually faded. Do you still remember the scene where we first met in the dungeon? I asked softly. Shenxinghe turned his head, a gentle smile in his eyes. Of course I remember. You were holding a clear umbrella, wearing a school uniform, walking through the blood rain, like a beam of light breaking into my dark world. In that moment, I recognized you. You were the girl from 10 years ago who gave me the umbrella and the rice ball. I was a bit surprised. So you recognized me all along. From the moment you entered the urban legend dungeon, I felt your presence. You were exactly like the little girl from 10 years ago, with that touch of loneliness in her eyes. Exactly the same. A surge of warmth washed over me. It turned out he had been silently remembering me all this time. I looked up into Shenxinghe's eyes and said seriously, Shenxinghe, this time, I will definitely help you find the truth. Shenxinghe smiled. Silly girl. I care more about you staying safe. At 1 a.m., everyone arrived at the 3rd floor rooftop on time. The rooftop door was slightly ajar. Pushing the door open, a strong smell of blood hit us. On the rooftop, a woman in a white dress had her back to us. Her hair was very long, reaching down to her waist. Su Wanqing? I called softly. The woman slowly turned around, revealing a pale face. Who are you? Why have you intruded into my territory? Her voice was cold, filled with intense resentment. We know your story. Shenqing has stepped forward, blocking her path in front of me. You were murdered, weren't you? Su Wanqing's body jolted and a flash of pain crossed her eyes. The one who killed me was the person I loved most. He stole my score and accused me of plagiarism. After my reputation was ruined, he lured me here and killed me. Then hid my body in the water tank on the rooftop. Everyone showed looks of shock upon hearing this. That kind of person simply doesn't deserve to live. Su Wanqing's resentment grew stronger, and black mist began to surround her. I won't accept this. I want revenge. I want everyone who wronged me to pay the price. Your hatred will only keep you trapped here forever. True release isn't revenge. It's letting go. You still have unfinished wishes, don't you? You want the world to know the truth. You want your music to be truly recognized. Su Wanqing was stunned. Let go? How can I possibly let go? I can help you. I took out my phone and turned on the recording function. Tell the truth. I'll make sure everyone knows. Where's your score? I'll help you publish it, so more people can hear your music. Su Wanqing was silent for a long time before finally speaking, slowly recounting her ordeal. It turned out the one who killed her was the school's music director, who was also her ex-boyfriend. He was jealous of Su Wanqing's talent, stole her forbidden score, and conspired with others to defame her, before brutally murdering her. My score is hidden in a secret compartment in the piano. The soul vessel is a necklace my mother left me. He took it from me. Shenqing immediately went to search the piano's secret compartment and indeed found a handwritten score. Meanwhile, following Su Wanqing's hint, I found the necklace in the office safe. The necklace was silver, with a small musical note pendant. It looked very delicate. It's time to end this. Shenqing held the score and looked at Su Wanqing. We will help fulfill your wish. You should let go of your hatred and go where you're meant to go. Su Wanqing looked at the necklace, her eyes full of reluctance and a touch of relief. Thank you. After speaking, her body gradually became transparent, finally turning into a beam of white light that vanished from the rooftop. Congratulations to the players for finding the forbidden score and soul vessel. The truth behind the old school being abandoned has been unlocked. Mission progress, 50%. Remaining mission, escape the vengeful spirit teacher's pursuit, and find the exit. The girl named Ailing's face turned pale. Is it that music director? As soon as she finished speaking, heavy footsteps echoed from the stairwell. A man wearing a black suit, with a deathly pale face walked up. His eyes were bloodshot, and he was holding an axe. It was Su Wanqing's ex-boyfriend, the music director who had turned into a vengeful spirit. You all must die, he roared, swinging the axe as he charged toward everyone. Run! Shenqing shouted, grabbing my hand and running downstairs. The other players also scattered and fled. The spirit teacher was in hot pursuit. I looked back as I ran, and saw that he was shrouded in thick black mist, looking absolutely terrifying. Running like this won't work. We'll never get away this way. We have to find a way to deal with him. Shenqing nodded and took out a talisman from his pocket. This is an evil warding talisman I found in the dungeon. It should be able to trap him temporarily, but someone needs to distract him. I'll do it. I volunteered. I stopped running and turned around, immediately switching to my melancholy mode. I leaned against the wall, looking up at the sky at a 45-degree angle, my eyes filled with sadness and despair. I also softly hummed the melody from the forbidden score. The spirit teacher stopped abruptly when he saw my movements, seemingly drawn in by my melancholic aura, or perhaps the familiar melody brought back memories. His gaze became somewhat dazed. Now. Shenqing threw the talisman, which turned into a golden light in the air, striking the spirit teacher's body. He let out a shrill scream, trapped by the golden light and unable to move. Find the exit while we can. Shenqing grabbed me and continued running forward. The other players followed suit. Everyone searched all over the teaching building for the exit. Ultimately, in the first-floor library, we found a hidden door. The same symbol from the lesson plan was carved on the door. Shenqing placed the soul vessel necklace on the door. Congratulations to the players for clearing the secret script of the old school building dungeon. Player Jiang Wu has completed the hidden mission. Unresolved grievance. Reward, soul purification power. Player Shenqing has received a reward. Soul physicalization opportunity. Time limit, 24 hours. Shenqing and I looked at each other, both seeing the surprise in each other's eyes. We walked into the white light. When we opened our eyes again, we were back in the real world. At the gate of the abandoned third middle school, Shenqing looked at his hands excitedly. His palms were no longer transparent. They had a real, solid touch. I have a physical body now. He reached out and hugged me. The warmth of his embrace made my eyes well up instantly. That's great, Shenqinghe. I hugged him back tightly. We have 24 hours. We have 24 hours. We can definitely find a way for you to stay forever. Shenqinghe nodded. I know the secret of the soul vessel. This necklace not only carries my soul, but it can also absorb positive energy. As long as we collect enough kindness and warmth, my soul can be permanently physicalized. During the next 24 hours, we began collecting positive energy. We went to an orphanage and told stories to the children. Seeing the children's innocent smiles as we gave them gifts, the necklace emitted a faint glow. We went to a nursing home, accompanying the elderly for chats and walks. As we listened to their stories of the past, the necklace's glow grew brighter and brighter. We also went back to the abandoned school. I published the forbidden score online, revealing the music director's crimes to the world, to clear Su Wanqing's name. More and more people were moved by Su Wanqing's story, leaving messages of sympathy and support. This energy of kindness poured into the necklace continuously. As the sun set, the 24-hour limit was coming to an end. Shenqinghe and I sat on a bench by the river, watching the necklace radiate a dazzling light. It should be enough now. Shenqinghe took the necklace and put it around my neck. This necklace can not only carry my soul, it can also protect you. From now on, you won't have to worry about supernatural harassment. I touched the necklace on my neck, my heart full of reluctance. What if it still doesn't work? Shenqinghe smiled and gently kissed my forehead. Trust me, and trust the bond between us. As soon as he finished speaking, the necklace suddenly burst into an intense light. When the light faded, Shenqinghe's body was no longer transparent. His eyes were full of life. I really get to stay forever. Ha ha ha. Shenqinghe excitedly picked me up and spun me around. I laughed, but tears couldn't stop falling. Shenqinghe and I lived a peaceful and happy life together. Occasionally, we would still receive greetings from the dungeon world. Slender Man would secretly send new suit jackets. Sadako would send photos of herself, still sporting the bangs I trimmed for her. And those eerie lingering traces that used to bother me never appeared again, thanks to the necklace's protection. On a sunny afternoon, Shenqinghe and I were sitting in a cafe. I looked out the window, with a faint smile. Shenqinghe, do you think we'll encounter another dungeon in the future? Shenqinghe held my hand, his gaze tender. No matter what we face, I will always be by your side.